Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome to episode number 2 of the Women's Revolution podcast. And today is, as you can see, just two of us, me and Kelly. Kelly joining me. Divina and Gita had some parenting responsibilities, which is really aligned what we are talking about today. Before we start, just a reminder about what this is about, the Women's Revolution podcast, where we talk everything about women, related to women, the good, the bad, the ugly, the unspoken. And we are real in real stories, real shares. We also want to hear from you. So please comment if you are joining live or on the replay. Let us know what you think, share your stories. We would love to hear from you as well. Today's theme is default parenting. But before we start, Kelly will start by trying to put us in the moment, let's say, and relax a bit.
Yeah, so what we tend to do when we get together is just invite a pause, which seems very apt for this topic especially. So everything is always an invitation. So it's just going to be a mini one, and just to show that how we can kind of go from narrow awareness, maybe when we're overthinking, when maybe we're busy with the children and we just feel overwhelmed and we just feel like everything's like too much going on. So I just want to all I want to do is kind of just invite you to almost like if you put all your awareness onto your feet, and just really notice your feet areas, like if you're just falling into the feet area, and just really noticing all the things we don't often notice, the toes, the heels, the whole foot area. And just noticing what happens to your breathing as you just really pay attention to a body part that keeps us balanced, it keeps us grounded, they keep us moving forward. And now so I'm going to invite you. You can do this at any time unless you're driving, but either imagine or literally pull your arms out. And you may not want to look at the screen if you're looking at us now or the recording, but look forward. And obviously we can't see the either sides of my arms, but I become really aware of them. And so we're really kind of opening our awareness up. And this speaks to our nervous systems that we're safe, that we can reconnect. And then if you want to put an extra layer onto this, imagine you can see behind you, you're seeing in front of you, you're noticing your arms to the side and what's to the side of you. And we're just going to open up our imaginations and notice what's behind us. And just noticing what happens to your breath. And as we just come back in this moment, really just paying attention, just really notice your whole body. Just really notice the space around you. And just like notice how you feel. As we just really go sometimes from that narrow awareness where we're trying to juggle too much, and maybe trying to hold too much and trying to really focus on too many things. And as we just take a pause and just open our awareness back up. Yeah, and I'll pass back over to Carla.
Thank you. It's really bringing us to the present moment, right? So, as a starting point, I will read something that was shared with us, um, and would love to hear from you what you think about this. And this is about the default parenting topic. Even though it makes sense, I do most of the labor at home because he's working outside the home. It doesn't mean I always want to or like to do it. I can find myself feeling jealous that he gets to build his career on his terms, while I'll build mine with stolen moments in between naps, playtimes, and nursery. The mental toll of remembering everything like school trips, pre day, PE day, non school uniform day, after school activities, what's in the cupboard and the fridge, what clothes they're growing out of, what to cook for dinner, play dates with friends, buying the card and the gifts, organizing 2 weeks of half term with activities. It's tiring. Knowing I carry the wants and needs for other people in my head and having to be so intentionally that I don't forget my needs matter and not leave them to last. Having to be on 24/7 while wanting a life of my own that honors who I am as an individual has been the hardest balance I'm still figuring out. This was shared with us today, and it's powerful. And I would love to hear if you also resonate with some of the things that I just shared. My experience might be a bit different of some other moms because I'm a single mom. So I am the default parent by default because it was just me. So I have a son. Daniel is 19 years old. He's an adult now. And I've always been the default parent. It was only me being the mom, being the dad, doing and thinking about everything. So for me, that was my normality, let's say. There wasn't another option. I was and I had to be the default parent, thinking about everything. And I know it's hard, it's very difficult. But I imagine, I don't know if it's right or wrong to think this, but if I imagine that when you are a woman and you have a partner and you still are default parent, it's probably even more difficult. What do you think, Kelly?
Oh, it's such a I think it's such a kind of deep topic with so many layers and so many similarities in so many people's life experiences, but also differences because it's about a relationship
Yeah,
and the roles that we play in that relationship. And I say play very lightly, but unconsciously, how we kind of put on these unsaid expectations of who we need to be and what we need to juggle when we become parents. And just hearing the share that you beautifully read out, I literally could feel my chest like get crushed in. I felt stuck and I felt like I literally wanted to curl up in a ball and cry when I heard those words. Like I was really feeling that woman. And I could really feel sadness, like, you know, like coming out of my, like, I really feel it, like, I don't know what to even say. Like, I just feel so stuck. And that's when I was really feeling into those words, you know, there were parts of that has definitely been part of my own path, really, when I became a parent. But also I can really sit here with my husband really picking up the load of the children on school holidays where things have beautifully changed, but it's taking work. It has taken work. But if I kind of step back and think of default parenting and how kind of complex it is, I think it's really difficult. It's getting me to really think, I know this is really real. I have spoken to
yeah,
people, and even though they didn't maybe at this stage don't want to kind of share their vulnerability in this experience, what they do say is, yeah, that's me too. That's me. That's me. And I read a really fun. You know, it was like it's like a light, but it spoke volumes. And what did it say? It said default parenting is that, you know, your default parenting when you got to tell everyone that you're going for a pee. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was like, when my kids are younger, because I got a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old. I remember there was no boundaries. It was like boundless, you know. It was just mum, 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 mum. But I, going back at the beginning stages, in my own kind of reflections, a part of me just wanted to just be the default parent at the real
Yeah.
beginning. I remember thinking, oh my God, this is the best thing that's happened to me. I literally was more than happy to be the parent, and my husband go to work, and I just take all that. That's all I wanted to do. That is what I wanted to do. And then as kind of time goes on, and obviously demands kind of get heavier, and then you're like, well, actually, I love being a mum, but this is 24/7. You know, this is kind of like a lot to hold. I need my own needs to kind of to be met here. I need to find who I am as well as kind of
Yeah.
mum, and I need a little bit of space. You know, you start that feeling kind of like closed in, very much like that lady beautifully shed. I felt like kind of closed in and very stuck. Oh, I want to do this and I can't. I want to do
Yeah.
this, I can't. And I felt very kind of stuck. And you know, and it's a really kind of hard place to be, because this it's the birth of resentment. You know, you can get really resentful when you feel you can't live your own aspirations and your own, and want to kind of discover who you are now, because we're always changing, other than the playing the mum role, or being that mum. And
Yeah.
so I really resonate when I first became a mum 9.5 years ago, how that was very much very real in my own life. But like I say, I chose to be, and things had to change, but that change did take time.
Yeah.
Um, but it brings up for me, and I'd be interested to see what you think here, Carla, because we're all kind of come from different backgrounds as well. But it's got me thinking about the culture.
Yeah.
Where does this come from? You know, what is it? What is it? Where does this come from? Like, what makes us? And just to kind of put a little bit of context to this, because obviously we observe our own mums. We
Yeah.
learn through what were our environments. We learn from what we see. And then it was a little moment. It was about 2 weeks ago. My 5-year-old daughter, she sat in the car with a curiosity, and she had been watching the old Disney movies. You know, kind of like Cinderella, uh, Sleeping Beauty. And she said to me, Mum, can I ask you something? I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's like, will I be will a man choose me?
Wow.
I was like, okay, what do you mean a man choose me? Well, will I ever get married? Will a man choose me? And I had to pause, because I was like, wow, where has that even come from? The only things you've been watching is these kind of old Disney movies, yeah? And and I was like, okay. I said, but, and I, you know, and I think it's the default of what
Yeah.
we're digesting, but we're always co-creating, and that's completely removed us about how we co-create family dynamics, our legal cultures, but it's the bigger picture of what is seeping into ourselves and our lenses. And we really have to have a conversation about, no, 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 a man doesn't choose you, Maya. When you're big enough and you choose to be with a man, or whatever partner you choose to be with, you choose each other.
Yeah.
And she just sat there and went, oh, and she's 5 years old.
Yeah. Wow.
So it just made me think, you know, at 42, when I became a parent, you know, what was kind of like tilting my own lenses of these expectations I was putting on myself.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I totally agree. It's part of the culture, how you are raised, and it comes back from the beginning of times, right? Because if you think about the time of when humanity was created, the caveman, the men would go hunting, and the women would stay at home taking care of the children and taking care of the food, of what the men would bring, right? And it's generational, and it's how it started, and it still continues, not the same way, of course, but it still continues. And you're right, because I remember watching my parents, where my dad was the one working. My mom also worked, but even then, my father was the biggest earner of the house. So he was the one that provided the most income, right? So my mom also worked, but she also had the responsibility of us, me and my sister, taking care of us. Um, and all those things, like just as I read, the school meals, what to wear, the doctor appointments, all those things were my mom's responsibility, and my father was the provider. And thinking about it, I decided, I decided that when I would grow up, I would want to be independent. So I would never want to be dependent financially of a man, which is interesting, right?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I fought very hard to never depend financially from a man. So it's the culture, it's the our environment, and it could lead both ways, right? Either you could see and have that experience and decide, I don't want this,
Hmm.
and you do everything to be completely different, and that can it's not good or bad, or you can have the same experience and think this is what I have to do as well.
Yeah, and it's that unconscious, isn't it? It's like the unconscious
Completely.
is always making a decision. So if we don't kind of have kind of if we avoid seeing what we don't want to see, then nothing changes. If we don't have these kind of conversations, if we don't access our vulnerability, then we just stay in almost like autopilot and just do what we think we should be doing, and in turn we can lose ourselves because
Yeah.
we kind of just lose who am I in all of this, because our life becomes so kind of buried by holding way too much, and you can really feel buried by that. And even circling back to the beautiful share and the vulnerability of the woman that kindly shared her real experience right now, I was feeling buried and unseen and unimportant and kind of invisible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's and there's also another point, I guess, um, in terms of the power dynamics about of a couple, right?
Yeah.
In a relationship, and over the all generations, and still today, there might be the perception that the man is the one that goes works 9 to 5 or even more, right? To
Yeah.
earn the highest income and to be able to provide, and the woman is the one that needs to step back in her career for whatever time it is, and then after a few years, try to recover the career path, um, which is okay if it's in agreement. Um, but there are, I think, other options if the couple decided together as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And funny enough, I was looking because obviously we're all in our own stories and our own experiences, and I know in some kind of dynamics we're kind of focused on the woman here, and sometimes it might be flipped. It might be same-sex relationships, or it could be, this a man maybe resonating more with our story, and it's become a default because maybe he earned less than the woman. But it was really interesting. Is it? I think it was. Oh yeah, the Tin Man, and he's got a podcast. He's on Instagram called the Tin Man, and it was just really interesting to kind of hear his perspective. And he really speaks for men, actually, and speaks about with this rise of the kind of feminine kind of conversations. And he was like, hey, the masculine is over here, you know, we need to kind of look at the men too. And what he was saying, which I found really interesting, is, you know, you were saying that, you know, this kind of, which is, I do feel it's been fed by culture. The man provides and goes out and he provides and he keeps a roof over the family's head. And I played it to my husband yesterday, funny enough. And I didn't say anything. I just wanted to kind of like, I just was curious of if he would say anything or his reaction. And what this guy was saying is that with women, they can have more purposes in life. So those purposes may be the children, it may be friends and families. They may be, they have more of a friendship circle. They may have different kind of hobbies or interests. Where a man's purpose is very much embedded by a purpose to provide. And he doesn't really have any other resources of purpose in his life, because that's where the conditioning has come from. But it's a road that often doesn't lead to fulfillment or happiness or joy. And as I was kind of playing it, I already listened to it and I played it again. And my husband just went, yeah. And it just really made me think. And I know, and even though we've kind of mentioned it, and even some of the kind of research I've been doing in my academic work at the moment, so much comes from the messages that we digest that are really unconscious. They shape our reality. They can come from movies like my daughter. They can come from our environments and our own family dynamics, what we've seen. And for your case, maybe you go, that's not going to be me. So I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to not rely on, and you know. But we kind of always digesting unconsciously and shaping our reality, shaping what we feel, that we where we put our energy.
Yeah.
And to really just have a kind of a different perspective and a different voice here, it did make me think, wow, okay, we're talking about how a mum, not normally it can be another way, but often it's the mum that has to maybe step back and has to hold on the family, and maybe all the parties and the play dates and research all the other stuff, and research about their health, get all the food on, you know, get the food together, blah blah blah. But actually, is a man in default
Yeah.
in that
On
they
the other
provide, and what do they
extreme.
lose? And what do they lose out if they're in that role?
Yeah.
And then I read a blog of a woman, and she was actually saying about, I love being a default parent. I get to do this, I get to do that, and all the children need me, and I saw all this out. And then I had this kind of grief. I had this kind of loss. It was like a grief that kind of like clunked in my body, thinking, oh my God, that man, does he realize what he's missing out on? If there was a little bit more communication here, if there was a bit more conscious about what is it that you want your family to be,
Yeah.
then what is it that is being lost without addressing and being really clear about how you want to kind of create this little microculture, which is our family.
Yeah. And I agree with you. It's both sides, right?
Yeah.
Because we are talking about our side as women, but as you mentioned, yeah, I can see it as well on the men's side, and also how it would look like externally, right? If you were the default parent, or if you weren't the one providing, because it's what is the society the right thing to do. If you are not doing it, is your role as a man the right one? Would you be ashamed? Would
Mm.
people make fun of you, the other man, because you are not a man?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. All those things can play in a relationship, because both have their own perceptions, their own beliefs, their own personalities, their own experiences. So there's always two sides.
And where that pressure comes from, you know, this kind of like, and if we don't have these real conversations and going, okay, this is a kind of like, it feels like a spider web that feels really sticky and we don't even know we're in it. And we're kind of like trying to navigate ourselves through it. But unless we start to dissolve this like sticky web, we don't create space to do things differently and design it ourselves. And, you know, and there is kind of financial pressures as well, especially with the cost of living going up, you know, and so there is a lot more things that we need to kind of be aware of, isn't it? But we only can do that through really consciously kind of creating it. And it just really raised to me how shame, like unhealthy shame, can be kind of like threaded through all of this. And as you were speaking about the man side, you know, it's funny what you forget, isn't it? But it just came into my awareness. I remember because I was a stay-at-home mum with my son, and like I said, I was more than happy. It's all I wanted to be. I wanted to be mum. I just wanted to do all these things with my son, and I felt very lucky to be able to have that kind of choice of my husband going to work, and I just spend all my time with my son. But what's shown up for me, and again, this came from what I thought I needed to be. I remember going to these mum groups, and the first thing you get asked as a mum group, what do you do? And I was a stay-at-home mum, and the fact that I couldn't say that I was a mum, and I sorted all my kids' needs out, and I had food on the table, and I did this, and because I couldn't say that I had a job and I was earning money, I used to feel like a failure. I felt like a failure. I felt like, oh my God, I'm not as good enough as them. I am failing because I'm not bringing the money in, and my husband is doing that, even though I was kind of like spending loads of time with my son, giving them all the best experiences, making sure he ate well, doing all these different things, like 24/7, I still felt like a bloody failure because I wasn't earning. Where did that come from?
But that doesn't count as income or as work.
Why? Yeah, and I chose to do that. You know, I chose to stay at home, but because of whatever I was taking in from, I don't even know where that's come from. Internally, even though maybe on my face I was like, yeah, I love this, inside I was always trying to chase this missing piece was a piece I didn't even want to have. I honestly believe, like, oh my gosh, I am not a good enough parent, I'm not a good enough mum, because I felt I had to be a full-time parent 24/7, do absolutely everything that I was doing, plus then somehow go off and earn really good money to bring it in, because what I was doing wasn't good enough. Because unless you earn money, it wasn't good enough.
And I have the opposite experience from you because I was a single mom, but I think this might happen not only to single moms. So I decided that I would just have 3 months of maternity leave and then immediately go back to work. What happened is that then I started to hear from other women some critiques. You just stayed 3 months with your child. Why did you go back so early to work? You didn't enjoy it. You need 9 months. Why didn't you use all your full mat leave? And then I felt, well, guilty and started thinking, oh my God, maybe I'm not a good mom. I just wanted to go to work early. Was I right? Was I wrong? So there's that pressure as well. If you want to go early, then you have people saying to you, you shouldn't have done that. You should have stayed the 9 months. You are not a good mom. So it's interesting, right? When you talk about it, that things come up.
Yeah, all this kind of pressure and expectations that are really unrealistic. Like I say, can lead to inner stress, can lead to guilt, can lead to burnout, can deplete your joy, everything that's toxic. And I'm just really curious, Karen, when you look back now, like, because your son, how old you said your son is now?
19.
19.
Just celebrated 19 this week.
Oh, happy birthday. And when you look back now, what can you see now? Like, what would you even say to your kind of, when you went back 3 months, your younger self, when you went back and you were kind of feeling this pressure and these kind of projected expectations and then questioning yourself, What would you say to yourself now?
I would just say trust yourself. It's your choice. If you feel it's the right thing, trust yourself. And more than that, I would say that to be a good mom, you don't need to be with your son 24/7 for the first 9 months, because sometimes it's not how much time you spend with your kids, is when you spend time with them to just be there, be present, and be the best you can be. And that's what I would have said to me 19 years ago, probably, is just trust yourself. You, if you feel that's the right thing for you to do it. You are a single mom. In It's your choice, and it was my choice. And what other people say, it's their issue, not your issue. It's their problem, not your problem. So just trust yourself, trust your intuition, your instincts, and you'll see you will be fine. And it was fine, because 19 years old, and it was fine. He's a lovely boy, healthy. I couldn't have asked for more or better, anything.
Mm. And I bet that will reassure a lot of other mums or single mums or even single parents, because we do naturally worry, isn't it?
Yeah,
What
we
we
do.
do, what's the impact kind of long term?
And I guess
Um,
there's no right or wrong. It's just in these situations, I more and more I think it depends on the parents, the situation, um, your experiences, and I think the next we will have, by the way, because we're almost at the end of today's episode, we will continue in 2 weeks' time on the, I think it's the 19th, Kelly. I think, I'm not sure, but I think it is.
2 weeks today.
2 weeks today. So we will continue with this topic because there's so much more to say about this,
Yes.
um, where we will talk about some of the things that we can do if we don't want to be the default parenting, or we think I'm the default parent, but something is not right. How can this dynamic be more healthier to the relationship? We
Mm.
will discuss more. And also, Gita and Divina will join us and share their own experiences as well. So, just to let you know that this will continue.
Mm.
If you have stories that you want to share with us, we can share it anonymously, of course. We would love to hear them as well. And if there are strategies that you've used over the years, if you have any fears, any questions, just let us know. We would love to share your story as well, if you want, and answer any questions, if we can, of course, about the topic.
Yeah. And what I would say, if you're listening live or you're listening to the recording, before we come back in 2 weeks, where I know some people have offered their strategies of what has helped them, which I'll be sharing their voice in the next episode. But it might be a really good opportunity, because sometimes we can be in this default and not be aware. So even listening to this conversation, you may go, "Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that this was my experience." So just to invite, really, just to explore, how is this shaping in your life, and just really acknowledging maybe how much are you holding, how much are you doing, are you holding, is it kind of really unbalanced within your relationship, even if you're a single parent or not a single parent. And so you can have that awareness about how this maybe is kind of shaping in your own life. And then you can see then, when we can come back, maybe what is resonates with you, what is useful. But like Carla says, we would love to hear your own experiences and your own stories, because we really want to bring more voice to this, not just our own. So
Yeah.
you can kind of reach out, you can message us. We have an email, don't we, Carla, that maybe people
Yes.
can tell us if
I
they don't
will.
want to put it on a social media.
I will put in the comments the email once we finish.
Perfect. Yeah.
So thank you everyone for joining us. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, have a lovely, lovely weekend, and look forward to part 2.
Part two, yes. Bye everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye. Bye.